G'day guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I'll be going through each of last year's trades and just basically ranking every player's season. So let's jump straight into it. As you can see, the categories there, I've got all the way from elite to shit basically. So yeah, let's jump straight into it. Starting off with the first player, Toby Bedford. He had a fairly good year in my opinion, quite an underrated one. Was really good at the Giants, you know, provided some great forward half pressure, one of the best in the comp, or even the best in the comp at it, and kicked plenty of goals as well. Obviously missed the first half of the season though, or a good chunk of it, because of a hamstring, but was still pretty good and played a nice role in their finals series. I'm going to put him in instant impact actually. He's been a really good pickup for the Giants. Thomas Berry, let's be honest, he was a shit one. I think he may have played a couple games for the Suns, so yeah, Tom Berry can go straight into that category. Next up we have Jack Bowes, and he was a fringe player, but he did crack into the 22 at times, was the sub for a bit. But yeah, fringe is probably the right position for him. Tanner Bruin, he was a best 22 player in my opinion. I think he did like have a little bit of inconsistency at the start of the season, but did eventually crack into that 22 and stayed in there, which would have been good for him. Josh Corbett, let's be honest, he had a shit year. He played maybe 3 or 4 games, Big Corby, so yeah, or maybe a little bit more, but yeah, had no impact really. Zane Cordy was a fringe player. He started off on the side because the Saints had so many injuries, and Ross Lyon's side for the first chunk of the season. But yeah, fell away in the middle, got back into the side later on in the season, but yeah, was a handy player for the Saints, but fringe worthy. Next one, Tommy Mitchell. Now, this one could be a little bit biased. It wasn't really an immediate impact player, it's more of a best 22 player, but I'm going to whack him in immediate impact just because his final series was so good. Had a bit of a controversial year, copped a lot of criticism, but played really well in the finals, especially in the grand final. So he has to go in immediate impact. Junior Rioli, or Willie Rioli, for mine, was an immediate impact as well. He wasn't in the side for all of it, was a bit injured, got suspended quite a bit, wasn't always in the side, but when he was in, you know, we got a couple goals early on in a few games, got him up and about, had multiple games where I think he kicked more than 3 goals, so I'll put him in immediate impact. For now, could change it, depends. Rory Lobb was the best 22 player, like predicted. I think most people would have predicted that Lobb would have been in the 22, but not done a whole lot. He didn't really have an impact on the Dogs side, but was in their best 22. Brody Grundy, bit of an interesting one. I think most people would have had him in best 22, but he was on the fringe in the end, there, Grundy, in the later parts of the season, so that's where he's going to have to go. Obviously, was a pretty big story in the end of Melbourne's season, and yeah, we'll be on the trade table again this season. Isaac Rankin was an immediate impact player for me as well. He had a really good start to this season. Dropped off a bit, but yeah, still had a really good year for the Crows in his first year. So yeah, we'll be hoping to build up on that and yeah, continue his good start to life as a Crow. Jack Gunston was on the fringe, as he did get dropped, and then he got injured at the later part of the season, so he missed out on the finals. So yeah, he has to go on the fringe. Got dropped just simply because of his form. But yeah, it was a bit of a disappointing one for the Lions. Jacob Hopper, Yeah, he was an interesting one. He was definitely their best 22, but didn't really have a huge impact. Had maybe a few games that stood out to me as pretty good. He also got injured and missed a fair chunk of the season as well, which never helps. But yeah, best 22 for now. Josh Shackey played a couple games. He actually played one as sub in a final. I guess you could almost say he's on the fringe there because he played a final. In fact, I'll put him in fringe just because he played a final. But I could change it later. Depends. I have to make up my mind. Billy Frampton, he was in the fringe as well. He played a few games for us that were obviously bad. He played in the grand final. Didn't exactly do that much. 2 touches, 4 fantasy points. But he did keep Andrews quiet, which was really what his role was supposed to be in the end. So he didn't really fail, did he? But yeah, he played like 15 odd games. So yeah, he was in the fringe. Cooper Stephens didn't play a game. So that makes him an automatic, shit category, that's for sure. Probably the worst player on this list. I think he's the only player that didn't play a game. So, yeah, interesting. Lockie Hunter, to be honest, he was really, really good on the wing. Quite an underrated pickup from the D's. Whack him in immediate impact. Had a really impressive year. Really, really underrated year. And, yeah, he basically forced James Jordan to leave the club, though. But, nevertheless, he's probably going to stay at the D's now for the rest of his career. Pretty good. Aaron Francis, he was a fringe player as well. Didn't play a whole lot. Did play, I think he played a handful of games. Maybe even a few more as sub, but yeah, look, fringy player, handy top-up player, really. Jagger O'Meara, now this is a bit of a harsh one, I guess. I don't know. All I know is the Freo fans aren't going to like it. I'll whack him in best 22. He didn't really do that much, did he? Jagger, bit of a disappointment in the end for Freo there. Probably hoping that he would have a bit of a bigger year, but yeah, just didn't quite step up the way everyone was expecting him to. Yeah, Lloyd Meek was probably on the fringe. I mean, he still played quite a lot of games, but he was on the fringe because he would get dropped like every couple months or something. So, yeah, whack him in the fringe. Maybe he deserves to go at the top of fringe if I'm going to place him in order. Josh Dunkley is probably the first player that I want to confidently say goes in the elite category here. For me, yeah, Josh Dunkley goes in the elite. I think most people would agree as well. Then you got Will Setterfield at Whoopsies, who does definitely not belong in elite. He got injured for most of the year. I think he missed the whole second half of the year, even more. In fact, I reckon he played like, 10 games. He was really, really good in them. He was best 22, but then he fell away and got injured. So he's a really, really, really hard one to rank because he was in their best 22 when he was playing, but got injured. So I'm just going to leave him in the best 22 for now. Liam Jones was a really underrated pickup for the Bulldogs. He was great in defence and has to go in immediate impact because he cemented himself in the Dogs lineup and had a fantastic year. Unfortunately, did get injured, which means that he couldn't have an All-Australian worthy year because he was having one before he got injured. Jason Horne-Francis, for mine, yeah, he probably had an immediate impact. As much as I don't really enjoy Horne-Francis, he's definitely changed Port Adelaide and probably made him a better club. Ollie Henry was best 22 as well. Yeah, actually surprised he played as many games as he did. I don't know exactly how many, but he played majority of them. So, yeah. Sammy Wiedemann's an interesting one. He was in the side for half the year or more, then got dropped. But then he came back for the final round, so you have to put him in fringe. So, yeah, he was a handy player in the end for Essendon, but, yeah, didn't end up cementing himself in the best 22. Ben Long, yeah, I actually kind of forgot about this guy, to to be honest, in the second half of the season. I think he was playing in the side. He was in there for the first half, so you whack him in the fringe, I guess. Luke Jackson was a really impressive player, actually. I believe he made the All-Australian, scored a 40, which was very controversial, but yeah, he had an immediate impact at the Dockers. Had a really good year for them. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah. Just realised that there was a whole bunch of players that I'd forgotten. Sorry, I was using some YouTubers' tier ranking, and I found a part 2 of theirs when I realised that, oh, hang on, where's Bobby Hill? After I finished the video, so yeah, you know, this is a little part 2 added on to the clip I just showed you guys. Anyway, let's jump straight into it. Blake Acres, he has to go up in the elite category, doesn't he? He was just that good. Pretty much won Carlton all their finals. Was really impressive for the majority of the season. He has to go in elite. Like, he was just that good. Tim Taranto has to go up there as well. Had an All-Australian year, and he's probably, I mean, it's a little bit debatable, but I guess he probably was the best player from the trade period. Jaden Hunt went straight into the West Coast 22. He had a immediate impact, actually, because, yeah, no, it's West Coast. A player like that is definitely always going to help a struggling side, and certainly did. So, yeah, also got Carl Amon. He, in my opinion, had an immediate impact as well on the Hawks. He was pretty impressive on that wing. Had a fairly underrated year for the Hawks. Dan McStay, when he was in the side, he actually had a pretty immediate impact. And I know it might seem a bit biased to put him in immediate impact, but that's where I'm going to leave him. And Bobby Hill, just because he won the Norm Smith, I'm going to whack him right into the elite category. Sorry about that, I forgot those 6 players, but yeah, they were all very good players, which is why I figured out quite quickly that there was a couple missing. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys in the next one.